Let's look closer on the global wave control system. If you notice on our left bar, we can create a wave, and it will create infinity layer. So it's meaning as we're going, it's create procedural type of terrain that have their own components for the wave. Also we can control how the wave will render direction and other option. So let's first look on object itself. So just go open water surface options, and we go look right over all of these components. So first we have a geometry, and we have our surface altitude. It's currently going from our first ground, and you notice right here we have it 1 meter set. Next we have the options to create displaced water surface. So right now if we render, if you notice on our horizontal line, it's actually flat, so all the waves what we see it will produce by using bump map or shadow highlights on a flat surface, so it's not truly create all these displacements. To enable, we can enable displacement. On this case it will start creating bring up and down, and this is nice when we have a camera closer and maybe you want to create waves over object. However, if you just render like lake and you don't kind of needed this even horizontal or vertical lines waves going up, you probably want to keep displaced water surface disabled. It will save some time on the rendering. Okay, right here if you notice, we'll take our camera. Okay, let's go move it just slightly up, and you'll notice right in our render area. Okay, let's bring it in higher. Okay, so we have right here a little bit warning. Let me close camera. Okay, bring a little bit lower. So as soon as we can, and you can see right here horizon line, now we start having this displacement. Okay, so let's go ahead back to edit our object. Currently I'm going to disable our displacement so we can look on camera. So next you'll notice we have it use global wave control, and this is a simpler way to control all parameters without winking. So you have it overall calm or storm, and in some cases you maybe want to use this if you have it a different body of the water and you want to synchronize, so you may do this way, or it's the fastest, easiest kind of way to control it. With this option enable, you still can change the wind direction for your waves, so in which direction they're going, and you also can separately work with underwater gauss if you have a camera position below water. So if we want to readjust and tweak a little bit more with the waves properties, we can just disable the global wave control, and now you notice our other options is enable. So right here we have it options for the wind directions, and currently it's in degree, and which is 90 if we set lightning 90 degrees. For example, right here wind direction in a top view, it will blowing wind from top to the bottom. So right here we set 90 degrees, and changing these degrees will rotate according to this. These wind directions and also breeze have it no relations between, so they're all separate to this. And again, this is will affect just water properties, and a breeze will affect the plants, so they are not related to each other. So next we have wave amount. This parameter let you create overall amount of the waves that's created. Again, above the one will increase, and less than one will make less waves. So again, one is kind of middle point. The next we'll have a height parameter, and currently see it's disabled, and reason why, because our displacement one is disabled as well. So as soon as we enable our displacement waters, you notice height right now is available, so we can control also how high displacement on the waves will when we render water. Notice right here, we also, as soon as we enable our global use global control disabled, we have it options. We also have it access to function editor, specifically for our water. So if you need it, you can go inside the function directly for displacement and adjust or change the water fractal using to render this. Okay, next, after height for the displacement on the wave, we have wind intensity. The higher value of the wind intensity will obviously lead to the higher wave and a more rough surface. So next we have agitation. This is control mostly for velocity of the wave created, and this is effect only visible in animation. So overall, if you reduce below 1, your wave will going slower, and if you're going above 1, the waves start moving faster. Sharpness, it's control overall shape of the waves. Below 0.5, the waves will have a more round top, kind of smoother, and above 0.5 they will have a sharpness, kind of like a peaky top, more choppy water. Okay, next we have it foam along the coast. And what's happening when water intersect terrain, it can detect how much what depth the distance between water and underlay layer of the ground, and based on this it will create a foam or actually transparent kind of set to other material. In early versions, I think Vue 5, when it wasn't foam, we usually create this by detecting height of the layer below and increasing or decreasing transparency of the foam material above. So this is kind of built in, and it's make easy this way. Typical depth, it will detection of the layer or material below, and amount of the foam or transparent visibility in this case will be for the foam layer. So the higher amount, the more visible foam it is. The typical depth, the less depth. So for example, now it's when it's come 1 point, it will detect, and now we set on 30 meters detection. Okay, foam over waves. This is when it's have the increased sharpness or other effect. In this case, it will detect on the position on this, and based on that will create foam over wave. Again, coverage, it's how what percent overall cover, because we can go to 100% cover with the will start visible this foam, or we can control width a little bit. Okay, so let's set coverage less, and amount is how much. So in one case, think about this, the coverage, it is how many overall will be to all surface of the foam, and the amount, it's how transparency or visible will be that foam, and the areas where the cover will display the foam. So this is intensity, in some case amount, how much will be. Okay, when you work with underwater lighting, you maybe want to produce some gaussing based on the water, or maybe even a swimming pool, but somewhere we can see the gaussing cast from the light passing through the water. So you can enable the underwater gaussing effect, where intensity, it will be how brightness of the gaussing or will go through. So the higher value, obviously it's more visible will be light going through. The sharpness, it's the edges of the light, so it's how softer will be between dark and light, this edge, contrast of those edges. And of course the scale is responsible for the gaussing, if it will be bigger areas or small type. The scale also will affect some of the sharpness of the underwater gaussing. If you have a smaller amount of the scale, it will be a little bit sharper, then you will increase the scale. So these two parameters can affect each other in some ways. Gaussic, underwater Gaussic effect, it's also directly related to what type of material you're using. To enable this effect in material transparency, you should set to the physical transparency or direct volumetric light or indirect volumetric lighting mode if you want this underwater Gaussic effect to work properly. Beside all of this, we look on some foam cover and everything. This is also will be related to material that you're using. So currently when you create a sea material, let's open in material editor, you notice we have the physical sea water, which have it of the foam layer and default water. Some of the parameters inside the sea will control which area the foam will display. For example, when it's coming closer to the coast or over the water. And if you're using water material without foam, just only default water, some of those foam effects won't be enabled because you need to have special materials that will interact with this. These materials allowed you to use a different type of the foam. So for example, if you're creating sci-fi, you maybe switch this to the green or some other different type of material that maybe represent better. So right here we have our foam color, but let's look on default water. In the water transparency, you'll notice right here we're using physical transparency, which is with direct volumetric light, which allowed us to use it the Gauss if we need underwater Gaussing or light passing through. Again, if you switch this to the fast ocean, for example, it won't project properly. Or if you're using instead of physical transparency, you maybe used variable or some other transparency, again that will affect as well the result on a Gaussing. So by default, when you're creating the sea or expanded, it will assign this physical sea water material as default. If you need to change them, you always can go to your library, and inside the library from the water you can download it from the cornucopia or use it some other waters. For example, right here we have our waters, meta water, and if we're using tropical water, notice right in tropical we don't have our foam layer for this.